we strongly believe that there was a requirement for pre-publication review in this instance. It wasn't followed, and the author is in material breach of his secrecy agreements with the United States government.
That is the view of the United States government. However, there is a federal criminal defense attorney who disagrees. Quote, I feel his First Amendment free speech rights are being violated, especially his right to voice opposition to the government. And so says the Nishay Sanan, I'm sorry, Mr. Sanan, who, as I said before, is a federal criminal defense attorney and joins us right now on the David Paterson Show. Nishay, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I want to know the difference between free speech and what would be a material violation of what would have been government policy, which he was sworn to uphold when he joined the military, and that certainly is the position of the General Counsel to the Pentagon, Charles Johnson.
Well, free speech allows U.S. citizens, non-U.S. citizens to voice their opinions, even as it comes to what they feel the government is doing, not doing, and what they're wrong about. The Supreme Court of the United States has found that it is okay to criticize the country, your president, or whoever in politics you wish to criticize. Now, the question comes down for this seal was, A, did he ever enter into an agreement which made it confidential, and whether or not if he breaks that confidentiality, these would result in criminal charges. And I think what has been seen, at least in the media as of today, is that he may have violated a written contract not to disclose. Now, his lawyer has gone on news and media and said that he had no duty to disclose this to the Pentagon or show them the book before it was released. I believe, based on what is out there right now on this so-called confidentiality agreement, that he had the right to publish this book under First Amendment free speech protection.
And in what way would he not have had the right? In other words, what would they have to do to tell somebody who's on a SEAL team where confidentiality is essential and national security is paramount? What would they have had to have done to make sure that they're not sitting there looking at this problem right now?
Well, I think what we can compare this to, Governor, is the situation where the soldier released confidential documents to the founder of WikiLeaks, and then WikiLeaks published this. He was charged, I think his name was Soldier Manning, was charged in a criminal military tribunal, not in federal court by U.S. Attorney's Office or Department of Justice from Washington, D.C. But I think there's grave differences between this case and that case. In that case, confidential documents were turned over. In this situation, you have a soldier or a Navy SEAL writing about what took place in his own eyes, in his experience, when they went after bin Laden. This is an expose of his personal opinion or personal account of what took place. I think it's hard for the U.S. military to come forth and say, you're not allowed to express any opinion, because that right there would be a violation of the First Amendment.
Now, as you know, one of the problems that the members of the SEAL team had with President Obama is that when he meets with them, he said, okay, who fired the shot? And they said, we all did. Because one of the problems was if the name of the soldier that ever followed the shot was known, based on the feelings that a lot of the terrorists had since Osama bin Laden was, the titular leader of this type of terrorism uprising, then you are, in a sense, endangering the lives of your colleagues on the SEAL team. Now, I don't know that he actually does that from what little I know of what the book says, but don't you think that would constitute, in a sense, a violation of the privacy of the other members of the team?
Well, I guess there needs to be a balancing test among the privacy of the interest of the individual who actually did shoot versus the First Amendment free speech rights of this soldier who decided, I'm not saying what he did on a personal level was right. He could have put in jeopardy the lives of the people who were by his side protecting his life. But that's not what the law, or to be charged with a legal crime, requires. What the law requires is that he violated or broke the law that kept him from releasing this information. Now, look, everybody in every division of the military has the unspoken code. We won't say this. We're not going to say this. We protect our brothers. But that doesn't mean it's a violation of the law. That's why you haven't seen a rush to charges at this point, Governor. You have not seen the U.S. Department of Justice or the military charge this individual with a crime yet because they're not sure if they can.
Yeah, and I certainly take note of that. Now, let me ask you this. If we're asking people to engage in this much secrecy, if we're asking people to go overseas and to try to remove, arguably the most dangerous person of the latter part of the 20th century, only succeeded perhaps by Adolf Hitler, then legally, how could we protect the people that go there? How could we protect their privacy, and how could we protect them from the exercise of First Amendment rights that others take?
Well, I think the only way the military will ever be able to protect those people is they're going to have to enact certain rules of law that make it a crime to release certain types of information. I mean, you got to realize this is probably a first in decades where they were actually able to get in and assassinate someone who is this high up the list. As you said, like Adolf Hitler, Bin Laden was up there on America's Most Wanted. They got him. Maybe the military wasn't ready for something like this. And I think for future missions like this, before they take place, the military may enact new laws that make it a crime, at least in military courts, to release this type of information. But I think the problem that the military and the Department of Justice is going to have in this case is those laws don't exist. They cannot get what this individual did by releasing this information in this book to the level of what Mr. Manning did or Soldier Manning did in the WikiLeaks case.
Got it.
Where he released documents.
Nishay Sanan is our guest. He's a federal criminal defense attorney. And Nishay, all right, suppose this individual who writes under the name Mark Owen, suppose he decided to leave the SEAL team before they got to Afghanistan to assassinate Osama bin Laden, and he gives his accounts of what was going on at that time. What I'm sure you'll tell me is that legally there's no difference between the two situations.
No, I don't believe there is. I mean, what the Pentagon is harping on is that he has put the lives of American Navy SEALs and other soldiers in jeopardy. Either he did it after the fact or, as the scenario you gave, before the fact. I don't think it makes a difference. I don't believe the laws are there to prosecute him at this time.
Well, then something you said I think really bears repeating, which is that then the military wasn't ready to conduct this mission because what was essential to the mission was the confidentiality of it, and they didn't have enough protection under the law to conduct the mission and guarantee, in many respects, the safety of those soldiers.
I agree with you, and I think that's the problem, which I think the Pentagon is going to take a look into. Now, unless there's some secret documents that you and I don't know about, you and I can base our opinions based on what we read and see and talk about. Unless there is some specific thing that was provided to these SEALs that said you cannot release this or you'll be committing a crime of treason, a crime of espionage, a crime of letting out classified documents, they got a problem. Maybe they weren't ready. I mean, the goal was to take out bin Laden. That happened. Now, these are the repercussions of a mission that they may not have been ready for.
Right. This is stunning. And I want to thank you for taking the time out to clarify it for us.
Well, thanks for having me, sir.
Well, very good. That's really fascinating. This is one man's opinion, but he does work in the field. He's Nishay Sanan, a federal criminal defense attorney.